Good morning and welcome to How's Your ePresence? I should not say good morning. I should say good day. It's good to see you. Happy New Year. It is in the beginning part of January of 2022. It is hard to believe we are already into a brand new year. And I know that here in Atlanta, it's astounding how the new year has brought in a brand new cold wave. So we went from into the last part of 21, it was in the 70s in Atlanta. It was fantastic. And now it is, boom, it is cold here in the Southeast. I know for a lot of you all over the country, you're seeing the same thing. Some of you never got out of the cold weather. So I probably shouldn't rub it in that it was so warm in Atlanta at the end of 21. We are so glad you are here. This show is How's Your ePresence? We focus on helping businesses do social media, doing digital, finding marketing. How about geofencing? We'll get into that today. A little better. What are those things that you can do in your marketing space to help you drive a higher ROI? That's what we do. That's what we talk about here on How's Your ePresence? This show is presented to you by ePresence, a full-service social media agency, and I am Mark Galvin, your host. We do appreciate you being here. What we're always doing is building that library. You probably know this. We're constantly looking at ways that we can find better content to drop in our library that you can constantly go back and look at, that you can constantly go back and find an answer to the question you have about whatever is your digital marketing question. So past shows you can quickly look at that will help you is one is how to revolutionize your marketing approach with Lori Thomas Ross of Web Marketing Therapy. We also had someone come in that talked about email marketing. Her name is Liz Wilcox, and she talked about how you can make your email marketing better. We also talked to a LinkedIn expert at the end of last year. Daniel Alfon came in and talked about ways you can optimize LinkedIn at every level. So go back and take a look. There's more and more content back there. I just want to give you a little tease of some of that content that you can go and take a look at. Our shows always run live. We are on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. For 2022, even though this show is running here at 10 o'clock on the East Coast of the US, in the future, we're going to push all of our shows to 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we got a few shows scheduled for 10 a.m. already. Once those have run, we'll push all of our shows to 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'd love for you to join us. If you're tuning in live, send us a question. We would love to ask our guests your questions, and heck, you can get a free consulting session. These folks charge a lot of money for what they share. You can get those questions answered for free right here on our show. So just drop those in there. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about geofencing, which I think is going to be very interesting. We're also going to look at where you should spend your ad dollars. There's a lot of gut spending that happens on marketing these days. It feels like the right place to spend money, but is that the right place to spend your money? We'll talk about that. Very good. So let's do this. Let's make sure we ask all of you to subscribe. And so if you hit that button on the other side of the screen, Mark, that side, if you hit that subscribe button there, you will get notified when we go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So you can pop in and ask our guest a question. If you don't have a question, we'd love for you to share where you're tuning in from. So if you are popping in here, let us know where you are, especially if you're in some place really exotic, some island. And if you're on some island, maybe we'll bring you on. Let us see a picture of the beautiful beach that you're on. Well, let me tell you about who's our guest today. We have a great show. I'm pretty excited about this. We've got Dmitrii Kustov joining us today. He's with a group called Regex SEO, and he is the SEO rock star as named by the American Marketing Association. So that's a pretty big deal to get the AMA to recognize you as such with such a title. He has significantly increased the online presence of his clients through digital marketing campaigns and innovative content marketing techniques. So we are very excited to have Dmitrii join us today. Remember, If you see anything we're talking about that you think is interesting, ask a question. You can drop it right in the chat box. We will throw it on the screen and ask Dmitrii to give that a go and see what he knows about or how he can answer that question. Well, I think that's all I have. I think it's time to bring on Dmitrii. Let's see if we can find him out there. Dmitrii, welcome. How are you today?
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I am doing great. Beginning of the
Outstanding.
year, very, very big plans. Excited, and
Good.
this break we had at at the end of the year pumped me up. So yeah, let's make 2022 greater than 2021.
Bravo, 100%. And I think there's so many positive things that are happening for 22 that it should be a really good year. Um, so let's see if we can help some business people make it even better for them. I like that. Before we go there, you've got a behind you. For those of you on the podcast, you need to go check this out. You've got what is that a hand painted picture or is that a cling back there of an astronaut?
It is. It's not hand painted. It's one
Oh,
of the designs that our team did. Now it is real, so it's actual physical banner. And
cool.
before COVID hit, we had it as a like a wall sticker, big sticker on the wall at the office. And as we moved to our home offices, I decided to make a smaller version of it for podcasts, for client calls, and so on. Because astronaut, the space is our branding. It's all about reaching new heights in digital marketing, and we are in Houston, so NASA,
That
it
works.
it fits. It just fits
Yeah, I
very
like it.
nicely.
I think it's very cool. I think that's very cool, and it's not a green screen, so it
Right.
it looks really good. I love that. So, Dimitri, why do you do what you do? What is it that makes you that really motivates you to do this work?
That's a very loaded question, definitely.
Well, I don't mean
And
to ask you a loaded question.
yeah. Well, so I am a huge data nerd. I love data. I, I thrive on data, and digital marketing, unlike traditional marketing, is all about fitting things into right places based on that data. And
Right.
there are a lot of many different channels in digital marketing, but really the most you can extract from it is when you use data-driven approach and you find the ways that many different channels, how many different channels can work in the best way possible for a business, and finding those pinpoints, finding those opportunities and strategies. That's what excites me. That's what makes me get up in the morning.
Oh, that's really cool. So, the nice thing about digital marketing is you can track its success.
Exactly.
The ad spend that a lot of people will throw out there may go to print, and unless there's some sort of response form, it's hard to see if somebody you can't tell when somebody opens a magazine, right?
Right. Exactly.
Or opens a newspaper. The number of subscribers, but digital marketing is so much better. You so you find that that's really fascinating. How do you pull data? Where do you get that information from? Do you guys have your proprietary systems, or do you use some other third-party programs, data aggregators, APIs, as you and I both know?
Hmm.
What is the best way to collect this data if somebody wanted to do it on their own?
What I usually say is gather that data whichever way you can. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. There are so many free tools. Google Analytics is one of the free best tools out there. And that will allow you to get pretty much most of the data you need for
Cool.
online part of the business. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you gather it. You can gather on a piece of paper if that's what you prefer. I mean, probably not the most efficient way, but the point is that you have to, as a business owner, as a business, you have to gather that data so that you can make decisions based on data and not gut feeling. And
Yeah.
that's the whole point. Gather it somehow. uh, what I recommend is Google Analytics for anything online. One of the issues with that is that it doesn't support really phone call data, so you can't really natively integrate or find out how many calls you got from whatever channel. If you are a heavily call driven business, for example, maybe you're a
Right.
lawyer, or a dentist, and there are other tools that allow you to gather that data. CallRail is probably one of those most well-known ones, but again, there's so many different tools. We have some proprietary tools we use. We use tools that are out there, and again, the main point is just do it somehow. How,
Right.
that's a kind of a beyond the important part.
Yeah, yeah. So you guys would help someone, and you mentioned a dental practice,
Mhm.
lawyers. Tracking those incoming calls is important, and
Exactly.
also there are ways to get data on where the channels are for each phone call, depending on where you're driving that. And I think that's an important thing that hasn't come up in a while. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that. To track the calls is important. But I want to talk about geofencing.
All right.
What are some ways? First of all, I always assume everybody knows what geofencing is or what topics are that we bring up, but I'd love for you to share what is geofencing and how can it help a business succeed in that marketing space?
Right. So geofencing is one of those hyped up keywords that is used everywhere.
That is a that is
And
a hyped up keyword. I like that.
yeah, right now it's not being used as much, but 2, 3, 4 years ago it was all over the place. And really the definition of it, or in reality, the definition of it is much simpler than it might sound. All it means is that you target audience, users,
Yeah.
or anybody in a specific geographical area. That's it. So technically, like, here's kind of a out of the box example, or out of the box. Um, if you have a billboard in your city, technically you are geofencing that ad
That's
for billboard to your city, to that highway. That's
I
all it
like that.
is. It's as simple as that. It's targeting people in a specific area through whatever means, and those means, that's where things start differentiate quite a bit.
Oh, I think it's really interesting. The So one of the ways that if I understand this correctly is if I am driving along and I enter into a geofence of the local laundromat, right? Or dry cleaners would be a better word.
Mhm.
And once I get in there, I could something could hit my phone that says, "Hey, that shirt you're wearing needs to be cleaned." Whatever, right? Do need a dry cleaners? Look to your left. Maybe that's a little too specific, but in this space, there is a dry cleaner who can provide X, Y, and Z, and here's the reviews of them.
Mhm.
But that's just like that billboard. I always think it's fascinating when I'm driving along and there's a billboard that's been up over a business for ages, right? They build them and it's above the
Yeah,
physical building. I hope they're getting money for that.
yeah,
But and there's a
does make
big
sense, right?
arrow, right? I love it when there's a big arrow pointing down that says right there,
Yeah.
go to this business for whatever reason. That's kind of geofencing like. So, okay, that's really interesting. Can I pull data from a location in the past? Can I see where people were in the past, or is it only right now?
It's kind of both. So if we are talking about digital advertising and specific area advertising in the digital world, there are opportunities and there are ways to target people who are currently in the area or who have been in the area in the past.
Oh, cool.
Um, it really depends on the platform that we're talking about. So, for example, Facebook. If you guys are social media agency, so Facebook has four different um, what are those called? Like not filters, but settings. People who are currently in location, people who have been in the past in that location, recently in that location, or people who are interested in that location. So, for example, if I am searching, and in Google AdWords, very similar situation. Most of them are very similar. So,
Yeah.
if I am searching today about best coffee shops in Paris, I'm interested in Paris location. So the advertisers in Paris, they can start targeting me with their ads for those coffee shops because they know that I'm at least somewhat interested, or I'm doing my research about those best coffee shops in Paris. So that's kind of how geofencing works. That's how uh, the settings in terms of who you can target and when. And for most businesses, not for every business, it's kind of different. It
Right.
depends on what type of business you are. One of the examples you actually kind of were mentioning that about the dry cleaner. Instead of dry cleaner, what is being used very much? So if you use Waze app, the
Oh,
navigation
yeah,
app,
yeah.
they
Yep.
are very heavy currently, or they always been, on pushing you little restaurants or kind of large attractions when you are driving. So as you're driving, there will be a little thing that'll pop up and they'll say McDonald's half a mile on your right, NASA 2 miles on your left, whatever it is.
Right.
So
Right.
um, the Waze is using that, has been using that for quite a while, and that is based on proximity, based on location,
It's
and that's what
geofencing. Yeah.
technically is geofencing.
So can I be a naysayer?
Sure.
can I can I can I question the value of that? Because I'm a huge Waze user. Now,
Yeah.
one of the things in marketing, and this is while I am being a naysayer for those of you watching, I understand the value of everything that Dmitrii just said. But for me as a user, I sit back and look and say, you know what? That little banner comes across the top of my phone as I'm driving. I'm like, get that off my screen.
Yeah.
So it may not speak to me. Are those things working? And if they are working, is is there a way that can I work through a organization like yours to get onto the screen of the on the Waze screen?
Right. So it's not for everybody. Geofencing,
Right.
targeting audience in on things like Waze, for example, especially like Waze, is definitely not for everybody. It only works for impulse buys or impulse um, decision making. So fast food, a lot of people are eating fast food. So percentage wise, probability wise, if Waze is advertising McDonald's or whatever local fast food place, that's they probably get some return on that. But
Right.
let's say you
Right.
are a clothing shop, it's not going to be impulse buy. Let's say
Mm.
you are a social media agency, you're not going to stop at social media agency just
I'm
because a
never
little
going to
banner popped
advertise on.
up,
Yeah,
right?
I'm never going to
So
advertise on Waze.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
as a business owner, as a business, you have to think about when and why you're doing what you're doing in terms of advertising, in terms of marketing. So, uh, and again, that was the example of the Waze app. But any advertising, any paid advertising, especially, is should have at least as a part of the strategy the geofencing or location targeting. That's I like that word better instead of geofencing. Use just location targeting because that's all it is, and it's much easier to understand. Um,
Right.
so you always have to think about why and how you are targeting users in whatever area, because it's not not always gonna make sense for you to do so.
I think it's a brilliant point. So here's a way that we have used geofencing at ePresence, and I want to share this because I think there's some validity to the conversation. If I've decided I'm going to target dentists, let's say, And dental agents, dental practices are a good hyper local org, and you could use social media to connect with people because it's referral based. Blah blah blah. All right, so identify. I've already I've got my reasons that I think that they're a good target. Well, I could go and see a dental convention that, let's say, it was in Atlanta, and this dental convention was in Atlanta from X state to X state, and they all went to the convention center, and there it is. So I could target the people that were going in and out of that building for that time period. That's a way where it makes more sense for me. Geofencing. I would never advertise on Waze because it doesn't make sense. Because an impulse buy, that's a very good point. But you got to think through those things. Geofencing, I think, is a brilliant thing. And even from a branding piece, you could just get in front of people. One of my favorite ones are the what do they call that? It's the screens. It's the thing on Snapchat. I used to love that. You could swipe and it would show your brand could come up on there. And I'm attending the ePresence convention. So those are some neat things that you could do. And then that hits social media, and every time it hits social media, it's got your little brand on the screen. Pretty cool thing. Well, good stuff. All right, I'm peeking at the time. We have time for a couple more questions. I'm going to shift gears unless you have something else you want to talk about for geofencing. What do you think?
Really quick. So
Yep.
for any business owner out there, whenever you're talking about where you target and how you target, make sure that you do hyperlocal targeting, then also do kind of a broader targeting. So let's say maybe you are a business that serves a smaller community or part of Atlanta. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be targeting or trying to extract value from a greater Atlanta area. And then that expands even further. The only difference is that the more hyper targeted your ads are, the location targeting is. If you are targeting your community, you make sure that the split of the budget is more for that very hyper local area. And so let's say 80%, then 15% would be for greater Atlanta area, and then maybe 5% for state of Georgia or something like that. I don't know. And
Gotcha.
this way you can still test, because that's one of the things that a lot of people forget. There are so many unexplored opportunities that you are not going to get any data on. You're not going to get any results from if you never try it. The key is not to waste a lot of money. So make sure that if you are experimenting, you are adjusting your budgets accordingly. So what I always recommend is, for marketing budget, for advertising budget, set aside 5 to 10% of your marketing budget towards experimentation. And that's what's going to help you expand. That's what's going to help you find new opportunities that maybe your competition is not talking about.
Oh, I think that's brilliant. So in advance, determine what part of your budget should be for experimenting,
Right.
and stick to it. Right.
Yeah.
This actually really applies to that. Hey, there's the first ad. It's killing it. Well, work your plan and go for a week, and then you can look at the A/B testing, because I've seen this happen before. Wow, that ad's really blowing up, and somebody throws a lot of money in it, and they blow their budget on the first sense of success, and then the second ad rolls out, and it was actually more successful than the first.
Exactly.
Run the plan,
Yeah.
work the plan, let them both go, and see what result you get from those. I love that. All right, great. So we just hit a common mistake that businesses make when they get into marketing, because they're following their gut intuition on where and how to spend their ad dollars. Why is that a problem? And what is a better methodology?
Right. This is what we preach here at Regex SEO. Don't trust the gut, trust the data. That's I want to carve it on everywhere we can. And the biggest
Don't
problem,
trust the gut.
yeah, don't trust the gut. Nuh-uh.
New marketing marketing tagline is "Don't trust the gut." I like it.
Yeah, it literally is. We are in the process of changing the website, and it's going to be on the homepage of our website. Don't trust the gut, trust the data. And the biggest problem, because I talked to quite a few C-level executives, to business owners, and they are investing monies, and in a lot of cases, they're wasting money on certain activities just because their grandpa used to do so. Well,
Right.
especially in modern world, when things are changing very, very rapidly, you can't rely on just it because it worked 2 years ago. It's all also going to work now. There's a chance, but without proving or supporting that with data, you can't really be sure. And that's why I say all of the data you can get, just get it somehow. If you want, write it on a piece of paper or use whatever tools. And whenever you make decisions in business based on gut feeling, based on not data, especially in the world of marketing and advertising, of course, their intuition and trusting in gut in certain aspects of the business, maybe when you're talking to some kind of potential client and you just don't feel good about them,
Yeah.
maybe that's when you should trust your gut. But whenever you're talking about spending marketing budgets, advertising budgets, whenever you are testing different vendors, you have to trust the data and look at results of the campaign. You have to make sure that the ROI is positive, and this way you're just not going to waste a lot of money. And that's what it should be about.
Sure.
We as a company, our whole point is to help companies that we work with to extract the most out of the marketing budget. And how would we be able to do it if we don't track any data, if we are not looking at any numbers? And that's the beauty of digital marketing versus traditional marketing, because everything is trackable. You can see where people came from, how much money they spent on your website, product, service, and you can see how many calls you got, how long those calls have been, which channel, which campaign performs the best. So yeah, track everything. It's data is your friend, not the enemy. For some reason, I see this a lot, that business owners kind of think that data nerds are data nerds, but you have to have the data.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's brilliant. Well, Dmitrii, everything you've said makes total sense, and I'm glad that you were here today to share this. Tell our audience, where do you want people go to find out more about you?
So the company is called Regex SEO, Regular Expressions SEO. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization. Our website is regexseo.com, so you can find out quite a bit about us as a company, about myself there. And if anybody would like to reach out to me directly, they can always find me on Twitter or LinkedIn. My username is Digital Spaceman. We talked about Spaceman in the beginning.
The digital spaceman.
That's right. Yeah, Digital Spaceman. So yeah, hit me up. I love talking to people. I love helping people, companies, businesses, and yeah.
Oh, I love it. All right. Well, Dmitrii, thank you so much for being with us today. I
Of
do
course.
like that. A good handle like yours, the digital spaceman. I think that's brilliant. It makes it easier for people to find you, and it sticks. And that's the whole thing. There's all these smoke and mirrors when it comes to marketing. Track it, pull the data, make sure you're getting the ROI you expect from your digital spend. And there's this other thing that I always like to share, is that if it doesn't, there is a gut that comes with your marketing, because you're looking at the data and the data says it ain't working. Believe the data. Your gut
Yes.
says the data is probably right. There's this whole thing that goes on these days, especially in the digital marketing world, where we're presented with data and we still don't believe it. Trust the data,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Trust
Yes.
trust the
Yes.
data. It is going to be right, and it will help you make sure that you don't just spend money and send it, give it to someone who'd love to take your money, and it turns out to be a waste. Dmitrii, thank you for being with us. Hang out. I'd love to ask you a couple of questions at the end of the show here, but I
Yeah,
do
of course.
appreciate your time today. Thanks for being on How's Your ePresence.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet, man. For the rest of you guys, thank you for being here. Another great show, great information. We are always thrilled to have experts like Dmitrii come on, especially talking about geofencing. That's such an interesting space. And look at that data. And there is ways of tracking all the components of your digital spend these days. Make sure that you're achieving those KPIs, those key performance indicators, set up in advance, and make sure that you're achieving those. Here's something interesting about social media. Speaking of tracking the data, if you're going to look at growing followers, if you're going to look at growing engagement, start off not with, I want to have 1,000 more followers. Find out what the industry averages are. Look at what the industry averages are for your space, and you want to beat those. There's realistic goals and there's unrealistic goals. So that's also part of the data. Make sure you have good, realistic goals. How's Your ePresence is presented to you by ePresence. We're a full service social media agency. We focus on helping companies and individuals get online, stay online, achieving their mission, right? Let's reach more clients. Let's bring more clients in the door. Let's influence more people to send their friends and neighbors to your business. We also offer consulting and training. If you need to get your team up to speed on what they're doing, or you want to train your salespeople on how to use LinkedIn better, we can help with that. But so give us a buzz. You can go to the link. I think Morgan will put up on the screen. You go right there, e-pr.me/listener. If you go there and send us a message, we will give you a 5% discount on all of our services just by being a listener to the show. Aren't you glad you're here now? Aren't you glad you're listening? You just got yourself a 5% discount. How's Your ePresence is everywhere. And so we're now on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Be sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button over there. That subscribe button down there will make sure you get a notification when we go live. If you're a podcast listener or prefer to listen to podcasts, you can go to our website, epresence.me/podcast, epresence.me/podcast. And you can find all the locations that we drop our podcast. We drop one every single week. So every Friday, we're dropping a new podcast. So if you miss a show or you want to catch one when you're not able to sit and watch the show, you can always listen to it there on your podcast. Finally, our website. Just so you know, if you want anything about social, go check out our blogs. Our blogs are always sharing great information on digital marketing. It's epresence.me. That's epresence.me because it's all about you. This show is produced by ePresence. Our producer, writer, and extraordinarily wonderful support member of our team is Morgan Wood. Thank you, Morgan, for all the work that you do. Until next time, for my guest, Dmitrii Kustov, I'm Mark Galvin. We want to say thank you for being here watching How's Your ePresence.